You have been sleeping on Henry Tudor, and it's time to wake up. So here are 6 fresh reasons why you should love my favorite Tudor monarch. Number 1, he invented the Tudor rose. The Lancastrian red rose wasn't even really displayed before Henry's campaign started. He cunningly used it as one of the many ways to identify himself and gain support. Now, the white rose was used by the Yorkists, most notably by Edward IV, but it wasn't their main emblem either. Henry then combined them and created the Tudor rose. Now he was shown as not only uniting the families, but of also uniting the country after decades of civil war. And 100 years later, Shakespeare really drove home that propaganda when he used the rose symbology in his play Henry VI. It depicted men choosing a red or white rose depending on what side of the war they were going to fight on. Our guy Henry really knocked it out of the park because the Tudor rose is still the national flower of England and can be seen on everything from sports teams to the Supreme Court in the UK. And of course, it was proudly displayed on our current King Charles III's coronation invitations. So can we give Henry an honorary marketing degree? Because that is genius. The second reason we need to give Henry Tudor more credit is because he was gracious to some of the York nobles who fought against him at the Battle of Bosworth. Take the Earl of Lincoln, John de la Pole, for example. Henry might have had reservations about him since he was the nephew of Edward IV and Richard III. And there were hints that the Earl of Lincoln could have been Richard III's heir at the time of his death. Either way, Henry was set on fulfilling his promise of uniting the warring families and gave Lincoln a significant role in Arthur's christening. The Earl actually assisted Henry's mother-in-law and sister-in-law during this ceremony. Henry's attempt to bring peace to the families and the country is commendable, but as they say, no good deed goes unpunished. Because Lincoln later fled England and came back and led the rebellion backing Lambert Simnel as the Earl of Warwick. Luckily, Lincoln and the army were defeated at the Battle of Stoke in 1487, but that brings me to my number 3 reason why you should be much nicer to Henry Tudor. Because he was a chivalrous king to the actual impostors who rebelled against him and lost. After Henry VII had Lambert Simnel in custody, he actually forgave him for being a young boy who wasn't to blame for the action of his handlers. He was given a job in the royal kitchens and even worked his way up to be a keeper of the king's hawks, which sounds like an awesome job and one that's very close to the king. And don't forget, the first time Perkin Warbeck, the impersonator claiming to be Richard, Duke of York, was captured, Henry kept him and his wife, Catherine Gordon, in relative luxury. They could go to feasts and join in activities. I mean, they couldn't leave, but they weren't exactly treated like prisoners. This is pretty classy treatment for the impostor who invaded England multiple times and teamed up with the King of France, the King of Scotland, and the Holy Roman Emperor. I gotta give it to Henry on this one. And that brings me to my number 4 reason. He took care of Catherine Gordon. Even though she was married to the impostor Perkin Warbeck, Henry didn't place any blame on her and treated her with courtesy and honor. She became a lady of waiting for Elizabeth of York and stayed a part of her inner circle until the Queen died. Even though she was reportedly beautiful and charming, there's no evidence of them being anything other than just friends. And I feel like if there was some suspicion of something going on between them, we would know about it now, right? Speaking of Henry being a gentleman, that brings me to my number 5 reason why he's my favorite Tudor monarch. And that's because he was a loyal and affectionate husband. There are no reports of him having a mistress or an illegitimate child, which is pretty rare and honorable for back then. So I think we need to be giving him way more props than we have. Now let's talk about number 6, which is something that I am going to go into depth on in further videos. And that is that Henry VII would not let the other more powerful rulers intimidate him. For example, when France was savagely invading Italy in 1495, Henry was pressured to defend the Pope and join the Holy League alliance with his allies, the Spanish monarchs. But he wisely held out because of the actions of the other major power in the Holy League, Maximilian, the Holy Roman Emperor. Maximilian was blatantly and unabashedly supporting Perkin Warbeck. He even invited him to his father, the Holy Roman Emperor's funeral, and was treating him as the rightful king of England. So until the advantages were more in Henry's favor, he wasn't going to be pressured to join this league. Maximilian encouraged Perkin Warbeck to invade England and unseat Henry. These two had a history that is too long and drawn out to go on in this video, but I definitely will be making a video about it in the future because it is so juicy and intricate. Now, the Spanish monarchs and others tried to persuade Maximilian to give up support of Perkin and Warbeck because of England's proximity to France and their capacity to invade. Eventually, Max accepted the terms and Henry joined the League. As we know, Warbeck's invasions and attempts to unseat Henry failed, and he was ultimately executed in 1499. So what do you think of my list? Are you Team Henry VII now? Let me know in the comments if anything on my list helped Henry VII move closer to your heart. If you found this video interesting, please give it a like. I love researching it and making it for you. And if you found any incorrect facts or statements, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always willing to listen and learn. That's why I'm here. I hope to see you next time. Fare thee well.